The massive chamber of the Galactic Council buzzed with excitement. Representatives from over 300 species filled the circular room, their voices echoing off the crystalline walls. Today was special. A new spacefaring race had been discovered. Admiral James Miller stood straight and proud in his crisp blue uniform, trying not to show his amazement at the alien beings around him. Some were tall and insect-like, others resembled walking crystals, and a few looked like clouds of gas contained in transparent suits. As Earth's chief representative, he knew this first impression would shape humanity's future. Presenting the human delegation, announced the council speaker, a tall being with silver skin. They have achieved faster than light travel and request recognition as a spacefaring civilization. The council's scanning officer, a blue-skinned alien with 4 arms, stepped forward with a data tablet. We have completed our assessment of their fleet capacity. He paused, double-checking the numbers. They maintain approximately 200 combat-capable vessels. A wave of laughter swept through the chamber. Several representatives didn't even try to hide their amusement. From the upper tier, a large reptilian creature with red scales and golden armor rose to speak. 200 ships. The Draconid ambassador's voice dripped with mockery. My people's smallest border patrol group has more vessels than their entire fleet. How did they even reach our space with such pathetic numbers? Admiral Miller kept his face neutral, though his jaw tightened slightly. He had expected this reaction. Every other spacefaring race built massive fleets, thousands upon thousands of ships. They saw it as a sign of power and civilization. If I may speak, Miller said, his voice clear and confident. The chamber fell silent, more out of curiosity than respect. We humans believe in quality over quantity. Each of our ships. Quality, interrupted the Draconid ambassador. Your sensors clearly show their ships are smaller than ours too. These humans probably got lucky finding FTL technology. They're centuries behind us in real military power. More laughter filled the chamber. Miller noticed a few species weren't laughing. The ones known for being more analytical were studying the human delegation with thoughtful expressions. The council speaker raised a hand for silence. While the human fleet is unusually small, they have met the basic requirements for council membership. We will proceed with the standard evaluation period. As Miller began presenting Earth's formal request for membership, a junior officer rushed to the Draconid ambassador, whispering urgently. The ambassador's scaled face showed confusion, then disbelief. Impossible, he growled, loud enough to interrupt Miller. Our border sensors must be malfunctioning. Is there a problem? Asked the council speaker. The ambassador glared at Miller. Our patrol fleet just reported engaging one of their tiny ships that strayed into our space. They claim it evaded every shot from 12 of our vessels before disappearing. Clearly, their sensors were damaged. Miller allowed himself a small smile. As I was trying to explain, we believe in quality over quantity. That would have been the HMS Defender, one of our older patrol ships. Her captain must have gotten turned around in the new star charts. I apologize for any confusion. 1 ship against 12, muttered a crystalline being near the front, and it escaped unharmed. The chamber grew quiet as the implications sank in. If 1 human ship could outmaneuver 12 Draconid vessels, perhaps, said a gaseous entity floating near the ceiling, we should review the sensor data from that encounter. There's no need, the Draconid ambassador snapped. It was clearly a malfunction. No ship that small could. We would be happy to provide a demonstration, Miller offered politely. Earth's ships may be few in number, but each one is a testament to human engineering and innovation. We believe in making every vessel count. The council speaker studied Miller with new interest. That would be most educational. But for now, let us continue with the membership proceedings. As Miller resumed his presentation, he noticed the laughter had stopped. Several representatives were now furiously typing notes or whispering to their aides. The Draconid ambassador kept glancing at his data pad, likely reading updates about the patrol encounter. Humanity's first day at the Galactic Council had gone exactly as expected. They had been underestimated, mocked, and dismissed, just as Earth's strategists had planned. Let them laugh at the tiny human fleet. They would learn soon enough. Captain Anna Roberts watched from her command chair as another Draconid warship crossed into human space. The HMS Thunderchild sensors tracked the alien vessel with perfect clarity, though they remained undetected behind a small moon. That's the fifth violation this week, her first officer, Tom Wilson, reported quietly. They're getting bolder. The Draconid ship was massive, nearly 2 kilometers long with weapons bristling along its hull. It moved slowly through space, scanning everything in its path, like a predator looking for prey. Record everything, Anna ordered, and send another report to command. Back on Earth, Intelligence Officer Mark Thompson reviewed the growing pile of border reports. His small office was filled with holographic displays showing ship movements and patrol patterns. The Draconids weren't even trying to hide their actions anymore. They think we're weak, he muttered, adding another data point to his analysis. They're preparing for war. A message flashed on his screen. Urgent communication from one of their spies in Draconid space. As he read it, his face grew pale. The Draconids had gathered an invasion fleet of 10,000 ships. In the Draconid Empire's military headquarters, General Kraz stood before a massive tactical display. His scales gleamed in the dim light as he explained the invasion plan to his officers. The humans have only 200 ships to defend 20 colonies, he said with a sneer. We will crush them in days. Their pathetic fleet cannot stand against our might. None of his officers questioned the plan. Why should they? The humans were clearly primitive, barely able to build spaceships at all. Their tiny fleet was a joke among the Draconid military. On the bridge of the Thunderchild, Captain Roberts received new orders. Her crew was to continue monitoring the border but avoid any conflict. Some officers grumbled about running away, but Anna understood the bigger picture. Let them think we're afraid, she told her crew during their daily briefing. Earth has a plan. That plan was already in motion. Deep underground on Mars, automated factories worked day and night. Engineers tested new weapons and defense systems far from prying eyes. The tiny human fleet wasn't tiny at all. It was just the visible part of Earth's military power. Mark Thompson's warning reached the Earth Defense Council just as the sun was setting over Geneva. The council members gathered quickly, reviewing the intelligence reports in grim silence. They'll attack within the month, Mark explained, pointing to shipping movements and troop buildups. They're gathering their forces here, and here. The holographic map showed red dots representing massive Draconid fleets. Admiral Miller, recently returned from the Galactic Council, studied the map carefully. And they still think we only have 200 ships. Yes, sir. Their spies report exactly what we want them to see. The Admiral smiled. It wasn't a pleasant expression. Excellent. Send word to all fleet commanders. Operation Hidden Blade is now active. But remember, no one reveals our true strength until I give the order. Back in space, the Thunderchild tracked another Draconid patrol entering human territory. This group was larger, 30 ships moving in formation. They were testing Earth's responses, looking for weaknesses. Captain Roberts watched them through the main viewport. Her ship could have destroyed half the patrol before they knew what hit them. But those weren't her orders. Instead, she gathered data on their movements, weapons, and tactics. They're getting closer to Watson Colony, Tom reported, referring to one of Earth's outer settlements. They think it's defenseless, Anna replied. Wait until they find out about the automated defense grid. The Draconid ships moved slowly past their hiding spot, completely unaware they were being watched. Their sensors, designed to spot large energy signatures, missed the Thunderchild completely. They never noticed its advanced stealth systems or its powerful weapons hidden behind innocent-looking panels. As the alien patrol disappeared into the darkness of space, Anna sent another report to Earth. The storm was coming, but humanity was ready. They had planned for this moment ever since they first looked up at the stars. Let the Draconids come with their massive fleet. They would learn why humans believed in quality over quantity. They would learn why Earth never needed thousands of ships. They would learn the hard way. The Draconid invasion fleet appeared at the edge of human space like a swarm of angry wasps. 10,000 warships filled the void, their metal hulls gleaming under distant starlight. At their center, General Kraz's flagship led the charge, its massive engines pushing it toward Earth's outermost colony. "Look at their pathetic defense," Kraz laughed, pointing at the tactical display. "Only 20 human ships guarded the colony. This will be over before dinner." Commander David Wells stood on the bridge of the HMS Excalibur, watching the approaching Draconid fleet. His small group of ships looked tiny compared to the wall of alien vessels filling his view screen. But he smiled anyway. "All ships, activate combat systems," he ordered calmly. "Remember your training. Quality over quantity." The 20 human ships spread out in an unusual formation. The Draconids expected them to retreat. Instead, the small fleet moved forward, straight toward the massive invasion force. "They're insane," General Kraz said, watching the humans approach. "All ships, open fire. Destroy these fools." 10,000 Draconid ships fired their weapons at once. Space lit up like a new sun as energy beams and plasma torpedoes streaked toward the human fleet. The Draconids cheered, expecting to see 20 ships turn into space dust. Instead, they watched in shock as their weapons splashed harmlessly against invisible barriers around the human vessels. "Shields holding at 97%, reported the Excalibur's defense officer. "Their weapons are exactly as weak as we expected." Commander Wells nodded. "All ships, execute attack pattern Delta. Show them what real weapons can do." The 20 human ships suddenly accelerated to impossible speeds. They weaved through the storm of Draconid fire like dancers, their advanced engines letting them move in ways the larger alien ships couldn't match. Then the humans fired back. The Excalibur's main gun lit up, sending a beam of concentrated energy straight through 3 Draconid battleships. Their massive shields, designed to stop conventional weapons, might as well have been paper against human technology. "Impossible," General Kraz roared as reports of destruction flooded in. "How can such small ships have such power?" The answer became clear as the battle continued. Each human ship carried weapons more advanced than anything the Draconids had seen. Their shields used technology that shouldn't exist. Their engines let them move like fighter craft, despite being warship size. A Draconid captain watched in horror as a single human vessel took on 50 of his ships at once. It spun and twisted through space, its weapons firing with perfect accuracy, while enemy shots missed or splashed off its shields. "Pull back," Kraz ordered as more ships exploded around his flagship. "Regroup and surround them." "They can't possibly." His words cut off as the Excalibur appeared directly in front of his command ship. The human vessel was less than a quarter the size of his flagship, but in that moment, it looked terrifyingly large. "This is Commander Wells to Draconid flagship," a calm voice transmitted on all frequencies. "Would you like to surrender, or should we continue this demonstration?" Kraz slammed his fist on his command console. "Never. We have thousands of ships. You only have." The Excalibur fired a single shot. It passed straight through the flagship's shields and weapons, destroying its engines with surgical precision. The massive ship went dark, drifting helplessly in space. "Numbers mean nothing," Wells replied, "when you're this far behind in technology. Look around you, General." The Draconid fleet was in chaos. Hundreds of ships had been destroyed. Hundreds more drifted without power, their weapons and engines disabled by precise human attacks. The remaining vessels were retreating in panic. In just 30 minutes, 20 human ships had defeated an invasion fleet of 10,000. As rescue pods launched from his crippled flagship, General Kraz stared at the tactical display in disbelief. He had expected an easy victory against a primitive species. Instead, he had learned a brutal lesson about judging strength by size alone. The human ships regrouped, their formation perfect despite the intense battle. Not a single Earth vessel had been destroyed. Their shields were already recharging, their weapons ready for another fight. The Draconids had started this war, expecting to crush a weak species with their superior numbers. They had just discovered how wrong they were. The Galactic Council chamber was in complete chaos. Representatives from every species shouted and argued as they watched recordings of the battle. On the massive screen, 20 human ships danced through space, destroying hundreds of Draconid vessels with ease. "This is impossible," the Draconid ambassador roared. "They must have cheated. No ships that small could have such power." Admiral Miller stood calmly at the center of the storm, hands clasped behind his back. Next to him, Engineer Lisa Cooper prepared to explain humanity's technological achievements. She had helped design many of the systems that had just shocked the galaxy. The council speaker raised all 4 hands for silence. The human representatives have agreed to explain their technology. Perhaps this will answer our questions. Lisa stepped forward, touching a control on her tablet. A hologram appeared, showing the internal systems of a human warship. "The answer is simple," she said, her voice clear and confident. "While you focused on building bigger ships, we focused on making everything smaller and more efficient." The hologram zoomed in on the ship's power core. Many alien representatives leaned forward, their eyes widening as they understood what they were seeing. "Your ships use fusion reactors the size of buildings," Lisa explained. "Ours are the size of a car, but produce 10 times more power. We learned to do more with less." She showed more examples. Weapon systems that should have needed massive arrays, miniaturized into compact turrets. Shield generators that fit in small rooms instead of taking up half a ship. Engines that produced enormous thrust from tiny spaces. But this breaks all the rules of engineering." A crystal-based engineer protested. "You can't just make things smaller and expect them to work better." Lisa smiled. "Human history is full of people doing things that were supposed to be impossible. We take pride in breaking rules." The hologram changed to show a size comparison. A standard Draconid battleship appeared, nearly 2 kilometers long. Next to it, a human ship looked tiny at just 400 meters. "Our ships carry the firepower of 50 of yours," Lisa continued. "They're faster, more agile, and better protected. We didn't build thousands of ships because we didn't need to. Quality over quantity." The council chamber had fallen completely silent. Representatives who had laughed at humanity's tiny fleet just weeks ago now stared in amazement at the technical displays. "And this is just what we're willing to show you," Admiral Miller added quietly. A wave of nervous murmurs swept through the chamber. If this was what humans shared openly, what were they hiding? The Draconid ambassador had stopped shouting. He sat in his chair, scales pale with fear, as he watched the technical presentation continue. Every new revelation made his empire's military advantage shrink. "We're already receiving trade requests," Lisa told the council, changing the display to show a list of messages. "Many species are interested in learning our miniaturization techniques." "And you would share this technology?" asked the council speaker. "With peaceful species who prove themselves trustworthy allies?" "Yes." Miller's meaning was clear. Threats and invasions would not be tolerated. A small bird-like alien raised a wing. "What made you focus on making things smaller instead of building more ships?" Lisa's answer surprised them all. "Limited resources and space. Earth isn't a very big planet compared to many of yours. We had to learn to use what we had efficiently." The council members looked at each other with new understanding. What they had seen as weakness, humanity's small fleet and limited territory, had actually pushed humans to develop far beyond other species. "We invite any peaceful species to send scientific delegations to Earth," Miller announced. "We believe sharing knowledge benefits everyone, as long as that knowledge isn't used for aggression." The Draconid ambassador quietly left the chamber. His empire had learned that lesson the hard way. As the council meeting continued, more recordings of the battle played on smaller screens around the room. Representatives watched in silence as human ships demonstrated their superiority again and again. No one was laughing at the tiny fleet anymore. They were too busy trying to figure out how to become humanity's friend. The Draconid Empire was angry. Their pride had been wounded by 20 human ships, and now they wanted revenge. Deep in their territory, they gathered their entire military might, 50,000 warships, the largest fleet ever assembled in galactic history. General Kraz, still burning from his previous defeat, stood before the Draconid High Command. This time, we hit their colonies first, overwhelmed them with sheer numbers. Not even their advanced ships can be everywhere at once. On Earth's Watson colony, miners worked deep underground, seemingly unaware of the coming danger. But beneath the peaceful surface, something else was happening. All defense systems online, reported the colony's hidden command center. Underground bunkers hummed with power as automated turrets emerged from hidden silos. The helpless colony was actually a fortress. The first wave of the Draconid fleet appeared above Watson colony. 10,000 ships blocking out the stars. They expected to find it defended by just a handful of human vessels. They found nothing. No ships at all. See, General Kraz transmitted to his fleet. They run and hide. Begin the bombing. Suddenly, the colony's surface split open. Massive doors hidden under fake terrain slid apart, revealing launch bays that shouldn't exist. From these bays rose dozens of human warships, their engines glowing with power. Impossible, Kraz shouted. Our scans showed no shipyards. That's when the colony's automated defense grid activated. Thousands of weapon platforms emerged from mountains, oceans, and Arctic ice. Each one carried the same advanced technology as human ships. Admiral Miller watched from his command ship as similar scenes played out at every human colony. The Draconids had fallen for humanity's greatest deception, thinking they knew where all Earth's ships were. All hidden fleets, activate, Miller ordered calmly. Show them what they're really facing. Across human space, secret shipyards revealed themselves. Hundreds of advanced warships rose from underground bases and underwater facilities. The tiny human fleet wasn't tiny at all. It had just been mostly invisible. On the colony of New Mars, Captain Roberts watched the Draconid fleet's reaction to the surprise. They still don't understand, she told her crew. They think bigger numbers always win. The Draconids tried to press their attack, but they had lost the advantage of surprise. Human ships launched from hidden bases, each one carrying enough firepower to match 50 enemy vessels. The automated defense systems turned every colony into a fortress. Status report, General Kraz demanded as his fleet fell into chaos. Sir, we're detecting human ships launching from everywhere. They're rising from the ground, from the oceans, from behind moons we thought were empty. The truth finally dawned on the Draconid commander. The humans hadn't built fewer ships because they couldn't build more. They had built exactly as many as they needed and hidden them until the right moment. A transmission cut through all frequencies. Admiral Miller's voice was calm but firm. You thought our fleet was tiny because that's what we wanted you to think. Would you like to surrender now? On the main tactical display, more human ships appeared every minute. They moved with perfect coordination, their advanced technology making them deadly despite being outnumbered. Sir, a Draconid officer reported, his voice shaking, their ships are using tactics we've never seen. They're herding us into killing zones. General Kraz watched helplessly as his mighty fleet was systematically torn apart. Human vessels seemed to appear from nowhere, strike with devastating force, and disappear again. The automated defenses from the colonies created walls of fire that cut his formation to pieces. Fall back, he ordered. Regroup at. A human ship appeared directly in front of his command vessel. He recognized it. The HMS Thunderchild, one of the ships that had humiliated his forces in the first battle. Captain Roberts' voice came through clear and strong. Your fleet is surrounded, General. The only question is how many more ships you want to lose before you surrender. As Kraz looked at his tactical display, he finally understood. His 50,000 ships were being crushed by an enemy that had mastered quality over quantity. The tiny human fleet had been just the beginning. Humanity had been ready for this fight all along. The remains of the Draconid fleet gathered for one last desperate attack. 20,000 ships still survived from their original 50,000, but they were damaged and their crews were afraid. Yet General Kraz refused to surrender. "We will not be humiliated by these humans," he roared from his new flagship. "All ships, prepare for the final attack." Above Earth, Admiral Miller watched the enemy fleet's movement on his command screen. The full human fleet had finally revealed itself, 800 ships, each one a masterpiece of advanced technology. They formed a defensive line around humanity's homeworld. "Remember," Miller transmitted to all ships, "no mercy, but no waste. End this quickly." Captain Roberts positioned the Thunderchild at the front of Earth's formation. Her crew had fought the Draconids from the beginning, and they would help finish this war. The ship's advanced AI systems calculated thousands of possible battle scenarios per second. "Enemy fleet approaching," her tactical officer reported. "They're coming in fast and sloppy." The Draconid ships charged forward like a tidal wave of metal and energy, firing every weapon they had. They thought that if they hit hard enough, fast enough, they might overwhelm the smaller human fleet. They were wrong. "All ships, activate the Aegis system," Miller ordered. Every human vessel lit up with a new kind of energy field. The Draconid weapons, already weak against normal human shields, now couldn't even get close to their targets. Beams of energy curved away into space, and torpedoes exploded harmlessly against invisible barriers. "That's impossible," General Kraz shouted as he watched his attack fail. "No shield technology can do that." "Sir," one of his officers said quietly, "the humans are moving." The Earth fleet split into smaller groups, each one moving with perfect precision. Captain Roberts led her squadron straight into the heart of the enemy formation. The Thunderchild spun and weaved through space, its weapons cutting through Draconid ships like they were made of paper. "Show them our full power," Miller commanded. "End this war." Every human ship activated their most advanced weapons, beams of energy that could cut through multiple ships at once, gravity weapons that crushed enemy vessels into balls of metal, defense systems that turned the Draconids' own weapons against them. "How?" Kraz demanded as his fleet died around him. "How can such small ships do this?" The answer came in the form of the Thunderchild appearing next to his flagship. On his screen, he saw Captain Roberts shake her head. "You still don't understand," she said. "Our ships are small because that's what makes them better. Every cubic meter has more advanced technology than your entire fleet combined. We learned to think differently." To prove her point, the Thunderchild fired a single shot. The beam passed through 10 Draconid ships in a row, disabling each one without destroying them. "That was at 10% power," Roberts added quietly. The battle turned into a slaughter. Human ships moved like dancers through space, their AI systems coordinating perfect attacks. Draconid ships exploded or drifted powerless, unable to match their enemy's speed or power. From his command ship, Admiral Miller watched the enemy fleet collapse. Sometimes, he transmitted on all frequencies, "The smallest fleet can be the deadliest. Surrender now, or we will be forced to destroy every ship you have left." General Kraz looked at his tactical display. Half his remaining ships were destroyed. The others were trapped, surrounded by human vessels that seemed to ignore the basic rules of space combat. His mighty fleet, which had started with 50,000 ships, was now helpless before 800 human vessels. He started, his proud voice finally breaking. "I surrender. The Draconid Empire surrenders." The human ships stopped firing but maintained their positions. They hadn't lost a single vessel in the entire battle. Their shields still glowed with power, their weapons ready to fire again if needed. The final battle was over. The tiny fleet had crushed the largest armada in galactic history. and the galaxy would never be the same. The Galactic Council chamber was silent as Admiral Miller and the defeated General Kraz signed the peace treaty. It was hard to believe that just 3 months ago, the Council had laughed at humanity's tiny fleet. No one was laughing now. The Draconid Empire hereby acknowledges its complete defeat. Kraz read, his voice hollow. We surrender unconditionally to the human forces and agree to reduce our military fleet to defensive numbers only. The Council speaker nodded solemnly. Let this be recorded as a historic moment and a lesson to us all. In Earth orbit, Captain Roberts watched from the Thunderchild's bridge as workers began constructing the new Galactic Defense Academy. After seeing human ships in action, dozens of species had requested military training partnerships. Interesting how things change, her first officer commented. 3 months ago, they thought we were primitive. Now they're begging to learn from us. The Academy's first class would include students from 30 different species. They would learn not just about human technology, but about human thinking, how to do more with less, how to innovate instead of just building bigger. At the Geneva Space Control Center, engineer Lisa Cooper led a group of alien scientists through the facility. Their eyes widened as they saw humans working on even newer technologies. Your ships were just the beginning, weren't they? Asked a crystalline engineer in awe. Lisa smiled. We never stop improving. That's the real secret of human success. We're never satisfied with good enough. The aftermath of the war changed everything. Species that had relied on huge fleets of simple ships started building smaller, more advanced vessels. Trade routes that once needed hundreds of cargo ships could now be handled by dozens of human-designed craft. In the rebuilt council chamber, Admiral Miller addressed the gathered representatives. The room had been redesigned. No more elevated seats for larger species. Size, everyone had learned, meant nothing. Humanity welcomes peaceful cooperation with all species, he announced. But remember the lesson of the war. Never judge by size or numbers alone. Innovation, efficiency, and determination will always matter more. The Draconid ambassador, newly appointed after the war, nodded in agreement. His people had learned this lesson the hard way. Their remaining ships were being upgraded with human technology, but only after thorough peace verification. The funny thing, Captain Roberts told a class of alien cadets at the Academy, is that we never wanted to hide our true strength. We just knew that sometimes letting others underestimate you is the best defense. Across human space, the hidden shipyards and defense systems remained ready but no longer secret. Other species were amazed to learn just how thoroughly humanity had prepared for war while hoping for peace. The Galactic Survey Team had to rewrite their civilization classification system. They could no longer rank species just by the size of their fleets or the number of their colonies. Human innovation had changed the rules. Quality over quantity became a common phrase in galactic trade and diplomacy. Species that once built massive ships now competed to build smaller, more efficient ones. In his new office at the Galactic Defense Academy, Admiral Miller looked out at the students training in the latest human ships. Among them was a young Draconid officer, learning alongside beings his people had once considered enemies. We've started something new, he told the council speaker who had come to visit. A galaxy where size doesn't determine strength, where innovation matters more than numbers. And if another species tries what the Draconids did? The speaker asked. Miller smiled. Then they'll learn the same lesson. Humanity's fleet isn't small because we can't build more ships. It's small because each ship is perfect at what it does. As night fell over Earth, the Thunderchild patrolled near the Academy. Captain Roberts watched new cadets practicing in training ships, learning to think like humans, to see possibilities where others saw limitations. The galaxy had changed. The species that once mocked humanity's tiny fleet now sent their best and brightest to learn from them. And somewhere out there, other young civilizations were reaching for the stars. They would find a galaxy transformed by the human lesson. That true strength lies not in size, but in the intelligence and determination to make every ship, every weapon, and every cubic meter count. The era of massive, inefficient fleets was over. The human era had begun.